Hey, time for another vlog, part 3 of the Winter Project series. And we got the power station over in a spot, still missing the outlet cover. Hasn't come in yet. Talked to them and they said it'd be about another week. Our next project, as you can see, I've got some small pieces of foam in here. And I kind of mentioned last vlog, we're going back to the old standard, or standard is not the right word. What we normally do during the winter, and that is foam carving. If you remember last year, for those of you that have been following the channel for that long, we started going through and refurbishing all the skins, the panels I put up on the walls of my haunt. We got everything done, even made up one new pattern, but by the time it came to set up the haunt, I still had 3 patterns to refurbish. So we're going to get into doing those. But we're going to go in a different way. Last year we did a lot of the refurbishing and then I made up the new panels. This year we're going to start out making up the new panels and then get into the refurbishing. And that's what these are for. This is actually going to be a repeat pattern of a sort. We went this year and put the foam wall panels up around the outside of the haunt. To give us some character and so everything matched, and I didn't have a bunch of canvas sidewalls up. It worked really good. People liked it. My only problem is I have one side that has a fence that runs down that the wall's attached to. And we've been putting canvas up along there. We decided we're going to I want to ditch the canvas and I want to do these foam sidewalls down. So we're actually going to be replicating the pattern that we use along the outside of the haunt. And before I get too much further, take a break right here. Here's the wall, the area of the haunt I'm talking about. Okay, that's where these little panels go. I'm not doing the full length pattern. My skins are usually 7 foot long. These, I think they're like 3.5 feet length, because that's the only portion of the wall that sticks up past the fence that people will actually see. So I'm just going to cover that part. But we've got 20 panels. I need to get the pattern sketched out on. And it's a simple brick, oversized brick pattern. But I'm just getting started now. We're going to start sketching the pattern out, and then we're going to get into carving. So that's what this section of the Winter Project series is about, is getting these smaller panels done. We got the sketching out of the pattern done. With this pattern, it's fairly simple. It's a basic. Basically did a large brick pattern with a 1/4 inch grout. Now that the pattern's laid out, I'll be using my Dremel to carve out the grout lines. That's the next step. And I did want to cover, I've had people ask what type of bit I use. Here, we'll go over here and do these here. Basically what it is a grout removal bit. That's what I like using. When you're doing your carving, I prefer Dremel and using Dremel bits. You can use like a regular router and regular router bits and what have you to get your carving done. Problem with using the router and regular router bits is you can't get in and do really fine detail work. Even with the Dremel, I can get larger bits, larger widths, instead of the real thin ones like I'm using. I prefer to use the thin ones though, because it allows me to get in and do a lot better at doing detail work. Granted, this pattern doesn't have any real detail that I'll be carving with the Dremel. What detail work I need to do with these, I'll do with a sanding block after I get all the carving done. So carving is going to be our next step. Oh, one other thing I wanted to touch on. The Dremel bits. You can get the bits anywhere Dremels are sold, usually. They usually sell the Dremels and the bits, you know, at the same location. You know, going down to Home Depot, Ace Hardware, what have you, the bits are not cheap for the Dremel. You can pay anywhere from $5 up to $15 for one bit. This one here, I believe, was running around $6, $6 or $7 in my area for this the grout removal bit. I got curious, what was it last winter? I forgot to look up on eBay, see if they had them available there and if they were any cheaper. And you can get, what was it, 2 bits. What did I spend? God dang, I can't remember right offhand. It was like 2 bits for $5, you know, so way cheaper. You're basically, compared to the regular store, you're getting 2 for the price of 1. So if you need to get Dremel bits, check eBay. You can get new and used bits. I'd stay away from the used bits, get the new ones. But anyway, it's on to carving. I've got 20 panels to do, and we're going to probably get the majority of them carved today. Well, it's almost dinner time, and we didn't have too bad of a day. We started out with 20 sheets that I needed to get carved, and we've got all 20 carved. Here's what the sheets look like, kind of plain. I could leave them as is, do kind of a gray wash over the top of them, and then do the black or different colored grout lines. But that wouldn't match the existing. We need to detail it. And we've got 2 different types of detailing we're going to do. Right now I'm focusing on one of them. I want it to look like that. You'll notice the bricks aren't quite as square anymore. I've gone and tapered them off. What I've used is this here. It's just a sanding block, a piece of wood with some sandpaper on it. And I tend to use, for most of my foam carving when I'm detailing, a medium grit sandpaper, which is what I've got on here now. That's my standard. If I'm doing some really fine detail, I'll use a, oh God, what is the term? Mild, you know, not as aggressive, you know, like a 120 grit sandpaper. This is more like about 100 grit. And then if I have a lot of material I need to move, I'll do a more coarse, an 80 or 90 grit. But for right now, to do what I want to do, this is just fine. Now, in the process of sanding, I've also got some dings and stuff here and there. And on this type, I don't mind them. I want the dings in there because it gives a little bit of wear and tear. And when I go to do my last set of detailing on here, those end up blending right in, so there's no problem. Also, as far as sanding on the panels, I have 2 different sanding blocks that I normally use, depending on what pattern I use. You know, for doing the surface, you know, if I was going to sand the surface of it, or like with this one here, I just basically sanded the corners down on the bricks. This flat one works out just fine. On others, if I need, like if I'm doing a pillared look, like the gypsy panels I have on, and I want fluting and whatever, I'll actually use a piece of round doweling and just wrap the sandpaper around the doweling and sand, and it'll give you more of a rounded look to your surface. You know, so you can achieve a lot of different looks, just depending on what grit sandpaper you use or what sanding block you use. You know, different shapes of wood with the sandpaper wrapped around it will give you different looks. And it's a matter, you know, when you're doing a new pattern, you know, just playing around a little bit and seeing what you need. Well, as you can see, we're out in the Dragon Lair workshop. We got our work in the house done. I got my heater going out here, so it's nice and warm. We got our sanding done on the 20 panels, so we've got the nice wide grout lines with the slant on the bricks the way I wanted it. Our next step on here is to do what I call heat treating. And that is simply taking a bottle, spray bottle of water, and I go over and coat the surface with water, a mist of water, and then I take my heat gun to it, and it will roughen up the surface of the bricks and make it look less pristine, which is what I want. I want these to give some wear and tear to them. Another step done. We got all the panels heat treated, and they look a lot different heat treated. So now we're going to move on into painting, and I'm switching up my technique a little bit. Usually when I'm going to get to this stage and I'm done with the carving, whatever heat treatment or detailing I'm going to do to the panels, when I get ready to paint, my first coat of paint is usually a white primer coat. And it helps kind of seal it, and it helps the paint cover a little bit better. At least that was always my thinking. With these panels, I'm going to mix it up. I'm not doing the primer coat. I'm going to hold off on doing the primer coat. And what I'm going to end up doing, what I'm doing now is I've got some dark green out. That's going to be our first color we're going to shoot on. And we're going to spray the whole panel with that dark green. And it's basically the deeper portions of the pattern on the heat treating is what I want to cover. The next coat will be a gray, and that will be put on by roller just to do the surfaces. I don't want to go down into the detailing as much. And that will be rolled on. And then we'll come back through with the same gray, and we'll come back in here by brush and do the sides of the bricks, because the rollers won't hit that. So I'm going to have to brush that on. And then we'll have the grout line itself to do. So right now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to get that green shot on here, let these dry, and they'll have to dry for a couple hours. Well, it's the next day. We're back out in the shop for the painting process. And I'm filming this on my cell phone because I forgot to bring the vlog cam out. So the quality of the video might be a bit different. But yesterday we got out here and we got the green shot. Our next step is I need to start getting the face of the bricks done. And for that purpose, I'm using a sponge roller. It works perfectly for what I need. Load that up with paint and just go over the surface lightly, enough to cover it so I don't get very much paint down into the depths, which is where I want the green at. Now, using the sponge roller, how much paint and stuff that you get on the project depends on, one, how much paint is on the roller, and how hard you press. The harder you press, the more gook you get on the panel. So, it's something you got to watch. But the effect I want is this here. And I just got done, I got 3 panels done here. And you can see I didn't get any down deep in. You can see the green, which is what I want. Now, I've got to go through and I got to get all 20 panels to this point. Let them dry. And then we'll get on to the next step, which will be the sides of the bricks and the grout line. Well, it's been 4 hours. And luckily, with the heaters I've got out here this year, the shop is now at about 70 degrees, 75 degrees. After 4 hours, the panels are dried, and this is what we've got. All of them look like this. Now, my next step is the side of the bricks here, where the roller would not hit. I need to get this gray paint on them. Now, I've got 2 different ways I could do it. One, I could go through with my airbrush and just spray it. Problem with using the airbrush, like my regular paint sprayers, you get overflow with it. I mean, you get a lot of slop, which would mean I'd have to come back through and touch this area up afterwards. So I'd still have brush work to do. Or I could just say the hell with it and use a paintbrush and brush it. It'll take a little bit longer doing it that way. But I think that's the way I'm going to go. We're going to get in here and get the corner of the bricks, all the corners on the bricks and stuff, painted. Well, it's been a couple of days since the last segment. And we've been doing a lot of work. We've gotten all 20 panels to that stage. Gray's been touched up. I even went through and I touched up the green on all the panels. Now my next step in here, and the last step, is the grout lines here. I need to get them painted. Now I just got my first one done, and keep in mind that still looks like a mess. That's what a finished panel looks like with the grout lines done. That's the first one. I've got 19 more panels to do. And to do the grout lines, I'm doing it by hand. Just a brush. Here, get the camera pointing the right way. But it's just a brush, load it up with paint, and then just go down each of the grout lines over the whole panel. Takes a little bit, but it's quicker than the last phase, which was doing that. That took a while to do. About 3 days worth of work. Actually, no, 2 days worth of work. I did 5 panels the first day, 10 panels the next day. I was out here early morning. I was able to get 10 done. And then today I did 5. So, and those were the last 5 to do. But now we got to do the grout lines. And it's probably going to take a couple of days to do the grout lines too. Well, we're at the end of it. All panels are painted and done. And there's your final look. I know we kind of got some shadows here, and that's because that's in the way, causing the shadow. But that's what they look like. That's 3 of the panels side by side. And that's what is going to go along the fence line. Well, with that, this project's done. We've actually, while I was waiting for some of the paint to dry on these, got started on the next project. Which is a standard for during the winter, more foam carving. With a twist, but you'll have to catch that vlog. Next vlog for the next project should be up sometime, probably about the end of February, first part of March. It's a fairly involved project, especially with this new twist I'm going to be doing to it. So this is going to have to hold you until that vlog comes up. And I'm not going to let this run too long. I'm just going to simply say, stay spooky, stay toxic.